It's funny. I think a lot of people might try to say that I'm very biased towards Dricus Du Plessis in a potential fight against him versus Khamzat Chimaev. And I don't quite understand where this is perpetuated from. I think that there's this weird narrative going around that I am physically attracted to Dricus Du Plessis. And I just want to start this video off by formally requesting that everybody stop saying that because, again, it is just completely baseless and comes from, I don't believe, anywhere. I mean, obviously, in the past, I've commented on the girthiness of this individual before, but you gotta understand, when I call somebody girthy, it has nothing to do with my physical attraction towards them. It has to do with purely fighting and strength and skill. Now, when it comes to the term juicy, which is another term I've used to describe him, that is more so... But regardless, Khamzat Chimaev versus Dricus Du Plessis, I am so fucking excited for this fight. And, I think when most people break down this fight, I think the thing you're going to hear more than anything else is it all comes down to whether or not Dricus Du Plessis can survive the round one onslaught from Khamzat. If he can do that, then he has a very high chance of winning this fight. But if he can't, which, obviously Khamzat Chimaev has a very high chance of finishing him in round one, then, that's how the fight's going to go. And you know what? I actually kind of have a problem with that a little bit. I think that, obviously, I have gone on record many times to say that Khamzat Chimaev, I think, is probably the best grappler the sport's ever seen. I think very few people put it all together as well as he does. His sheer athleticism is ungodly. He has the fastest double leg the sport has ever seen. I've never seen someone shoot a double leg quicker than he does. And I think, again, right, you go back to some of the most decorated wrestlers in the past. You got guys like Daniel Cormier, Henry Cejudo, Yoel Romero. The thing about these guys they're not super well-rounded grapplers in the slightest. They kind of just coasted on their wrestling ability. I mean, you look at this fucking rear naked choke that DC hit on Rumble Johnson. Man, it's just not good. Like, that's not... The fact that he even got a tap from that is kind of insane, and it obviously came from the fact that Rumble Johnson was just fucking having a heart attack as soon as the fight started, like, whiffing on right hand so bad that he was literally falling over and just ended up gassing himself out, you know what I mean? But again, that is not Khamzat Chimaev. Khamzat Chimaev is an extremely well-rounded grappler, but with that being said, I really feel like his submission ability, especially round one, I just gotta be honest with you, it might be a little overhyped. But, don't just take my word for it. When we go back and look at all of Khamzat Chimaev's fights against, world-class opposition, right? We're going to start off with the Gilbert Burns fight. Now, this one's a little difficult because Gilbert Burns approached this fight very differently than I would say almost anybody else would. Khamzat goes for the takedown, literally just drags Gilbert halfway across the octagon, tries to take his back, but Gilbert Granby rolls. Khamzat's control is so elite that he stays on top, but then Gilbert just elects to go to his back, throw in a knee shield, start swinging hammer fists off of his back, and Khamzat just frankly didn't really know what to do with this. I mean, passing Gilbert's guard is going to be really difficult. Obviously, Khamzat couldn't reach him himself here. He tried, and then he just elects to stand back up, and, he didn't want to wrestle for the rest of the fight, which, I don't blame him. This is a very, very unique approach, right? But then you look at the Kevin Holland fight, which obviously I wouldn't say Kevin Holland is elite opposition by any means. But, of course, Khamzat gets in on the shot. Holland starts Granby rolling like a motherfucker. Again, Khamzat's control, just otherworldly, is fucking cartwheeling through all of Holland's Granby, staying on top. He gets to this sort of front headlock crunch position right here. Now, obviously, Kevin Holland, say what you will about the guy, understands the danger from this position, so he immediately grabs an underhook right here with this arm. Now, with this underhook, it's going to be really difficult to hit a Darce from here. And the reason for that is, the mechanics of a Darce choke is that obviously you have your wrist on one side of the person's throat and the other side's getting choked by their own arm going across and their own shoulder is pushing into their throat. But with the underhook, it just buys a little bit of space right here. And obviously, Holland knows this. And as Khamzat goes for the Darce, he just relaxes here in this position. Like, obviously, this is not going to feel good. Obviously, he is getting choked. Obviously, this is going to count as effective grappling per the judging criteria at the end of the day. But it's very, very common that guys will sort of bait you to go for a Darce while they have an underhook because you're not going to get a finish and you're going to gas out your arms. And you see, Khamzat knows this as well, so he comes to his knees in order to beat the underhook. And now he has the Darce choke way tighter. So Holland immediately starts moving, starts scrambling, gets the underhook back, and then he chills out again. He stops moving because he knows as long as he has this underhook, he's safe. Now, what he didn't count on, though, was then Khamzat using a butterfly hook to sweep him over, again beating the underhook. And now this is very tight, and now he finishes it. Obviously, really high-level stuff here from Khamzat Chimaev, but I do think at the end of the day, Kevin Holland just shouldn't have tried relaxing in this position. I mean, you look at this moment right here. If he would have gone completely flat to his back in this moment, which he kind of already was there, there's no Darce choke anymore. I mean, look, because he went flat to his back, Khamzat doesn't have the lock anymore. I mean, he let go of it. But then Holland turns back into him, and then he grabs it again, all because he's baiting him with the underhook that he grabs immediately. Obviously, now you're stuck completely flat against Khamzat, but that would have been better than what he did. But regardless, let's move on to the Kamaru Usman fight. Khamzat Chimaev obviously shoots, a ridiculously athletic shot, gets in on the single leg, and Usman does what you're supposed to do to defend. He gets his leg to the outside beautifully. The only problem is, though, Khamzat, obviously is way bigger and stronger. He just hikes Usman's leg way up into the air, and now there's just no defending this. He takes him down. Usman turtles. Khamzat is now sort of frantically trying to take his back. Here's the problem, though, with all of these sequences. Khamzat Chimaev is way too high this entire time. I mean, he right here is needing to hold himself up with his hooks, and there's not really a submission threat because his head is way too high this entire time. And honestly, I think Usman makes a mistake here standing up, because with how high Khamzat is, he should be tripoding. All right, he needs to get his head down and his back way up into the air to try to get Khamzat to either slide off the top or burn his legs out trying to hold on from this position. I mean, this position right here is brutally taxing on your legs to hold on to. And I mean, the truth is with this video right here, Damian Anderson, the guy with the back, is doing a much better job controlling and not being as high as Khamzat is in this example, and he just still slides right off the top. But instead, he chooses to stand back up, which honestly gives Khamzat a better position here. Still, he's a little too high even from this standing position, but the choke does get very, very close. Usman is forced to slam him into the ground. And now, for the rest of the round, Khamzat is still way too high. Like, there's no submission threat anymore if you're going to be this much higher than your opponent from the back. And now, he has a body triangle that he's using to hold himself up from this position. This is extremely fatiguing. And obviously, rounds 2 and 3, Khamzat was not the same as he was round 1. But again, I want to be very, very, very carefully clear here, all right? It's not that these two sequences we just looked at aren't wildly impressive. Obviously, Khamzat Chimaev is an absolute motherfucker when it comes to the grappling. But when I just look at these two sequences and try to compare this to fighting somebody like Dricus Du Plessis, who obviously is not a welterweight, I mean, couldn't even make welterweight if he wanted to right now, obviously is not going to be taking this fight on short notice. When I look at these sequences, I am not personally scared of getting submitted round 1. I'm more so just scared with the top control and the athletic shots coming in my direction. Those are the two things I'm nervous about. But of course, we now need to look at Khamzat's most impressive performance against Robert Whittaker, who is not a welterweight, did not take the fight on short notice, and did get submitted round one. But, when again you look at this sequence, I do think a lot of similar problems are still there. Obviously, Khamzat Chimaev shoots essentially a blast ankle pick. I mean, this low double is so low that the only way you're going to defend this is a really hard sprawl, which Whittaker could not do because he got backed up against the fence. And obviously from here, Khamzat looks very physically strong. His top control is still very, very good. Though Whittaker is doing a very good job scrambling, there's a moment where Khamzat sort of gets in on the back take. Whittaker gets the hook out, clears it, actually fully escapes. And then Khamzat just reshoots again, which is, again, to me, the terrifying part of fighting Khamzat. But then we look at the final finishing sequence. Obviously, Khamzat gets the choke over the face, locks it up, sort of. Whittaker starts panic tapping. And, look, some people look at this sequence and they go, wow, Khamzat Chimaev is so strong that he will smash your teeth if he gets a choke over the face. Look, I think that obviously Robert Whittaker had a pre-existing injury going into this fight with his teeth. I mean, he said this himself. Because this isn't normal. Like, this doesn't happen. I would like to cite when Gordon Ryan had a jiu-jitsu match many, many years ago against Felipe Pena. This is before Gordon Ryan got on steroids. He's very small here. I mean, this was the match that made him want to get on steroids because he was outweighed here by about 35 pounds. Felipe Pena gets the choke over the face. And look, he has his backhand behind Gordon's head. Khamzat didn't even have this. Khamzat's hand is on top of Whittaker's head. I mean, it is not even close to being as tight as this choke is. This choke is way tighter, and he's squeezing as hard as he can, and there's no panic tap here. I mean, Gordon wasn't even wearing a fucking mouth guard, all right? At least Robert Whittaker was. But there's no panic tap here. The truth is, right, Whittaker shouldn't have gotten tapped the way he did from this position. Khamzat didn't even have his back fully secured. He only had one hook in. Because this hook wasn't in, theoretically, there was nothing stopping Whittaker from just turning completely flat to his back. But again, he had no time because his teeth got broke from a pre-existing injury. Now, again, I want to be extremely, extremely clear here, all right? My point with all of this is just this. There are aspects of Khamzat Chimaev's grappling that is terrifying, and I do think that he might be the best grappler overall the sport's ever seen. But if I'm Dricus Du Plessis looking at all of these sequences we just went through, I'm not super scared of getting subbed round one. Obviously, there is going to be danger there. Obviously, there are things I need to be aware of. I need to make sure I'm watching out for darces and watching out for rear naked chokes. But I'm not really, really scared here of getting subbed round one. I don't think that is what Khamzat is displaying at a super, super high level based on these fights. I'm worried about the sheer athleticism of these shots. I mean, that's going to be a fucking bitch to stop. And I'm worried about the top pressure and the reshots off of scrambles. I mean, that is the real problem I'm seeing here. But the issue for Khamzat on paper is the fact that, again, historically, he slows down so much after round one because he just goes for broke at the very start of every single fight he's ever had. Now, here's the thing. Prior to the Robert Whittaker fight, we were promised that Khamzat has changed the way he's training. He's training much more intelligently. He's, taking care of his body a lot better, and therefore his cardio was going to be way better. I mean, we've yet to see it, and I think, though, that if that is the case, and Khamzat can keep up a pace like we saw in that Robert Whittaker fight for 3 rounds, that is what I am absolutely petrified of if I'm Dricus Du Plessis. I mean, Khamzat has these videos on Instagram for this camp against Dricus, wrestling with, Russian gold medalist world champion Sadaluev, who, for those who are unaware, Russian wrestlers are just the absolute best in the world. Nobody comes close. I am so petrified and so scared of a Khamzat Chimaev that can keep up a pace like this for more than just a single round. That is what I'm scared of. I'm not necessarily scared of getting subbed the very first round. And again, I think this could be a problem for Khamzat if his cardio isn't better like he's promised. I really think that is more so what this fight comes down to than anything else, and I don't think that's really the conversation most MMA fans are having regarding this fight.